Everybody, Penguin here, bringing you yet another report of cowardly terrorists. This one happened in London Saturday night around 10 p.m. London time. A white van with three suspects drove across the London Bridge, went off the road, and took out a bunch of people walking along the bridge. It's reported total that 7 people have been killed, but not all of them on the bridge. Apparently, the suspects drove off the other end of the bridge, exited the vehicle, ran down to the Boroughs, which is a bunch of clubs and pubs and things like that, pulled out 12-inch knives and began slicing throats and stabbing people just at random. Whoever they come up upon, they were stabbing them. And the total was 7 people dead. Within 8 minutes of receiving the first call of emergency, police shot and killed the 3 suspects that were driving the vehicle, bringing the total to 10. It's really hard for this Penguin to absorb this kind of information and process it. The reason being is England has been one of the tolerant areas of the world. They try not to stereotype. They try to accept everybody for who they are and what they are. And this just goes to show that you can't do that anymore. As Donald Trump put it, it's really time to stop with all the political correctness and start calling things for what they are. And that is, these countries are filled up with terrorists. In England, the last 3, the people were actually from there. They were born and raised there for the most part. They did have ties to the outside with their parents of different country as far as the descent. However, they were born in the country. They were born in England. And ISIS has got a hold of these people and infiltrated and turned them, and they were committing these crimes and these cowardly crimes. They were running and yelling, "This is for Allah, this is for Allah." And for the United States, we need to pay close attention, but not too close. And what I mean by that is we can't spend all of our time watching over there and have our backs turned to our own country and for fear of something happening in our country while our backs are turned. We need to support these other countries any way that we can. We also need to protect our own, because there is no doubt that something is going to happen on American soil, and it's probably going to be soon. I pray that it doesn't, but it's going to happen. This incident happened just shortly after a week of the Manchester bombing, where currently, as I'm producing this, Ariana Grande is doing a benefit concert in Manchester to raise money for the families of the victims and of those injured during that bombing, because it was her concert, or shortly after her concert, that the lone bomber exploded himself, killing dozens of people and injuring over 100. And I'm really, really fed up on having to, I don't want to say use the word report because I'm not a reporter, but to deliver this type of news because it's getting too common. We have to really stand vigil and take care of ourselves and question everything. This one was a van that was rented to these guys. I really don't think there was anything that could have been done or seemed out of the ordinary as of right now. Time will tell as this news story unfolds, but there were no backpacks to report or anybody that looked out of place, I'm assuming. However, we still need to be vigilant in doing that. We need to watch out for each other, not only members of your country, but other countries as well. We need to stand up and question things, because if you're not questioning things, you're not paying attention. This world is in a bad state right now. We have the radical ISIS and the radical jihadists that want to kill infidels. They want to kill people who are not of the Muslim faith. That includes Americans, that includes British people, it includes anybody that is not Muslim. So everybody is in danger. This is the 3rd attack in the UK, and they're senseless. It's becoming a norm over there. The mayor gave a statement and said, do not be alarmed when you see increased police and increased military presence during these things, because they're trying to protect the people. Unfortunately, Donald Trump took that out of context and tweeted, and it ended with, the mayor saying, don't be alarmed. Well, yes, be alarmed when you see all this happening. Be alarmed. But this is one time that I'm going to have to say that he took things too far, and he took that statement way out of context when he tweeted it. And if I were the president, first of all, I wouldn't be tweeting, but if I were the president of the United States, I would delete that tweet because it's really out of context. I read the whole speech, and I watched the speech where he said that, and there's no question that he said increased military presence, increased police presence. There's no doubt about that. So, Mr. Trump, please retract that statement. We have events coming up in the United States that we need to be prepared for. We have the Stanley Cup playoffs going on that 20+ thousand are in attendance both inside and outside of the arenas, be it in Nashville, be it in Pittsburgh. We need to be careful with these events. They're asking not to bring backpacks. They're asking not to bring anything that can be considered a weapon, or it's going to slow down security upon entering these venues. And I agree with that. We are going to the city of Atlanta at the end of the month to a huge concert called a Warped Tour, which there's going to be dozens of different bands on a dozen stages playing music, and it's going to be a large crowd. Am I concerned? Absolutely. Do we have to stop living our lives? No. We just need to pay attention to see what's going on around us. You got to pay attention to your surroundings. You have to protect yourselves and your family, because that's what comes first. I spoke the other day about tolerance and acceptance. As a people, we need to tolerate some things that we don't agree with. Your neighbors do something that you don't agree with, but you tolerate it because they're your neighbor. But what we don't have to do is accept it. If you disagree with somebody, you tolerate it, but you don't act on it. You don't have to accept it. And that's what we need to realize. Once again, all Muslims are not terrorists, but most of the terrorists are Muslims because Muslims hate infidels. And this is something that, let me rephrase that. The Muslim radicals, ISIS, Taliban, the Jihad, they hate infidels to the point that they want to kill them. And most people aren't like that. We as Americans, we aren't like that. Just because somebody disagrees with us, we don't go out and bomb them or murder them unless they pose a direct threat to our way of life. And that's the way that things should be. You don't have to act out and rebel against everything that you do not tolerate by not accepting it. And I hope that makes sense, and I hope that it comes across what I'm trying to say. And we will never, ever be able to figure out why these radicals want to kill everybody. That's just something, that's their way of life. That's what they believe. And they believe it to the point of dying for it themselves. Whereas most cultures, that's just not what they believe. And most Muslims, except for the radicals, they don't believe that as well too. I was watching news reports, and I believe it was Fox News, where they interviewed a Muslim over there, and he said that's not the Muslim way, that it's giving Muslims a bad name, so to speak, because Muslims are a peaceful people. And I agree with that to an extent. Now, there are some things in the Quran that's kind of out there about, killing and converting and things like that, but most of them are okay. I didn't grow up. When I moved to Maine, and prior to moving to Maine, I had a friend that was a Muslim. He lived in lived in Iran, and he was a nice guy. I met him, his wife, his family, and he actually came to the United States after Saudi Arabia was invaded by Saddam Hussein. He was one of the Kurds that actually got invaded, and he was a super nice guy, and I could never imagine him being violent in any way. But this is only a portion of them. It's the largest portion, but unfortunately you have the radicals that give them a bad name. It's kind of the same about Democrats, Republicans. You have your conservatives, you have your Republicans, you have your liberals, you have your Democrats. And some of the extreme Republicans give other Republicans a bad name, just like the liberals give the Democrats a bad name. There are a lot of ideas that Democrats have that aren't that bad, but they really can't be looked at as good because of what's over there, what's on that side of the aisle. But this is a time when I think our country needs to come together and stand, just like it did after 9/11, when they're standing outside of the Capitol building singing, "God Bless America." That was something you rarely ever see. And it seems like since then, there's become even more of a division between the left and right. And we need to get that division and narrow that border, because we really need to start shaking hands across the aisle and start agreeing on some things, especially when it comes to the safety and security of our country. Be it borders, be it how we handle terrorists, be it our plans and what our policies are with other countries. We need to come together, and we really need to stand as a nation to show these radicals that you're not going to bother us. You're not going to destroy our way of life. You've tried it several times and it hasn't worked. We're going to keep on keeping on. So I'm going to end this for now. This video is a little bit longer than I intended, and I hope that what I said makes sense to everybody. If not, leave a comment down below. Just let me know how you feel, because I'm not really sure how I feel right now. I know that we are in despair, and I'm afraid for the nations of the world, especially our allies, and I'm afraid right now for the United States of America. So this is Penguin Speaks saying we're praying for you, Great Britain. We're praying for the UK, and our thoughts and prayers go out to the family members that have been devastated by these tragic events over the last couple of weeks. So be somebody important, be yourself.